All right, let's talk about a moment that really defines an era in both business and technology. We're looking at SpaceX right at the end of 2025. This whole story is about numbers that are just hard to wrap your head around, ambition that's literally off the charts, and a company that is knocking on the door of $1 trillion valuation. So let's get right into it. Just look at that number. By the end of 2025, a tender offer puts a price tag on SpaceX $800 billion. That officially makes it the most valuable private company on the planet. I mean, it just dwarfs everything that came before it. But of course, a number that big, well, it makes you ask a pretty important question. How do you even begin to make sense of a valuation like that? Is SpaceX still just a really, really successful tech startup? Or has it turned into something completely different? You see, the way people are valuing it has totally shifted. It's not about building and selling rockets anymore. No, the new benchmark is thinking of it like a global utility or one of those software platforms that's just completely dominant. And that brings us to the core idea, the whole thesis of this explainer, that $800 billion isn't for a rocket company. It's for a company that has fundamentally changed its business. It's become a global monopolistic owner of space infrastructure. Think about it this way. They now own the highways to space and all the most valuable real estate once you get there. So to really get how we arrive at that massive number, you have to do what investors do. You have to break the company down into its pieces. And when you look at the sum of those parts, you start to see what's really driving all this value. And wow, this breakdown really tells a story, doesn't it? I mean, just look at the absolute dominance of Starlink. We're talking over 70% of the company's total value. The actual rocket launching part, it's just a tiny sliver. And then you have Starship. Now that isn't valued on today's profits. It's what they call a call option. Basically, it's the right to own the entire future of the space economy. It's pure, explosive, incredible potential. Okay, so let's dig into that huge piece of the pie first. Starlink. This thing has gone way beyond just an idea. It's a real cash-generating global utility. 9 million. This is the number that really props everything else up. By the end of 2025, Starlink has just blown past 9 million active subscribers all over the world. This isn't just normal growth, This is creating a brand new global customer base for a service that just a few years ago didn't even exist at this scale. And all those subscribers? Well, that translates directly into some serious financial firepower. You can see the revenue just shooting upwards, and it's almost all thanks to Starlink. But what's even more important is that 2025 was the year the whole model was proven to work. Starlink became profitable, based on EBITDA, and it started generating its own cash. It's now a self-funding engine that pays for the company's wildest dream. But here's the real secret sauce. The story isn't just about connecting homes in the middle of nowhere, it's the pivot they made into these super high-value enterprise markets. We're talking about customers with way higher ARPU. That's average revenue per user. Think about aviation. A single airplane can bring in over 25 grand a month. A single ship at sea, over 5 grand a month. And don't forget Starship, with that massive $5.9 billion defense contract. These are tough markets to break into, and SpaceX is just walking in and dominating. And of course, you can't have a giant constellation like Starlink without a way to get it up there. And that brings us to the second pillar of SpaceX's value, the absolute total monopoly of its Falcon launch business. I mean, these numbers are just insane. Over 170 launches in 1 year. That's more than 80% of the entire global market. And because they've perfected reusability, their cost to launch is under $15 million. That creates what they call an economic moat. It's a barrier so high that their competitors literally can't afford to compete. So, okay, Falcon and Starlink are the profitable, solid foundation of the company today. But the biggest reason for that $800 billion valuation, well, that's all about the future. And the future is Starship. Now, it's so important to get this. Starship is not just a bigger Falcon. It's a completely new kind of transportation system for space. The goal is to make launch costs 100 times cheaper. When you do that, you're not just selling a product, you're creating a technology that opens up entirely new markets. Everything from giant new satellite constellations to, building bases on the moon and Mars. In 2025 was the year that this future started to feel real. Man, what a roller coaster. After a big disappointment in May when they lost the booster, the team pulled off this incredible turnaround. In August, they got a successful re-entry, and then in October, boom. Flight 11 did everything it was supposed to do. A perfect mission,
And they even caught the Super Heavy booster with the launch tower arms. It was just unbelievable. That was the moment the dream became a reality. Now, of course, SpaceX isn't totally alone out there. So you have to ask, what about the competition? Well, when you actually look at the landscape, you realize just how massive their lead really is. Sure, you've got competitors like Blue Origin, who finally got their New Glenn rocket to fly in 2025. And that's great. But they are just years, maybe a decade, behind on reusability and cost. And in the internet race, yeah, Amazon's Kuiper is a serious future competitor, but they don't have their own rockets up and running. That means their cost to deploy satellites is way, way higher than Starlink's. The gap isn't getting smaller. If anything, it's getting wider.
But hey, no analysis is complete if you don't talk about the risks. Let's be real. An $800 billion valuation is pricing in a whole lot of success. And the road ahead, well, it's definitely got some big challenges. You can boil it down to about 3 main risks. First, the Artemis moon mission could get pushed back to 2028. Why? Because refueling a spaceship in orbit is just an incredibly hard problem to solve. Second, Starlink is so important in global conflicts now that it's become a geopolitical target. And finally, you always have what's called key person risk with Elon Musk. His attention is divided, and his other activities can create a lot of volatility. So, after you weigh these incredible monopolistic assets against some very real risks, you kind of land here, at the verdict. SpaceX is standing right on the eve of becoming a trillion-dollar company. And this quote just nails the logic. That valuation isn't about how much money SpaceX made in 2025. It's a bet. It's the price you pay for the right to own the next decade of the space economy. An economy that one company, and really only one company, is set up to almost completely control. So that's the powerful 1-2 punch that's going on here. On one hand, you have the steady, money-printing foundation of Falcon and Starlink that pays for everything. And then, layered right on top, you have the now-proven, de-risked potential of Starship, which gives you the kind of explosive upside that makes these crazy numbers actually make sense. And that kind of leaves us with one final big thought. As SpaceX stands right on this trillion-dollar threshold, the conversation has to change. The question isn't if they'll dominate the future of space anymore. I think that's pretty much a given. The real question, the one we all have to start thinking about, is what does a world that's been completely reshaped by that kind of dominance actually look like?